And it is time once again for another AEW Dynamite review here on the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. Hi, I'm Warren. Season's greetings. Happy Christmas or post-Christmas. You know, we're in the post-Christmas world right now. I'm recording this on December 26th. I hope you had a nice Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, however you decide to celebrate Christmas and with whom. I hope it was lovely. And maybe you have nothing to do with Christmas. Maybe you're just like, maybe Christmas means jack shit to you. And if it does, well, I hope you had a lovely time. Nonetheless, if it was just like your run-of-the-mill Thursday, I hope you had a lovely Thursday. But this is where we're at right now. Like I said, I'm recording this on the 26th, December 26th. A couple of days late. I had basically set the table. I told everyone that there was not going to be a review on Thursday, and that was going to work in over the next couple of days. I still have family over. They're being very gracious, allowing me to come talk pro wrestling for a while. So we're gonna benefit from this. So I'm taking advantage of Boxing Day here in Canada on the 26th, right? And no, Boxing Day is not a day where Canadians go out and beat people up on the street. No, we don't do that. We are Canadians. We are not Irish. For those of you who have the benefit of video right now, I'm sure you're noticing Warren doesn't have anything in his hand. Usually I have my microphone, right? But my lovely Kristen gifted me this holiday season with a lovely lapel mic that is hanging off of my sweater collar right here. The appropriate way, by the way, to use a lapel mic. I do not understand these people who do any type of video and have lapel mics, but hold them up to their mouths to talk, right? That makes no sense. This is what they were designed to do. They were designed to hang onto your collar or like your shirt pocket or, inside of your shirt, whatever. And that's what they were designed to do. And pick up your audio from there. Right? Without having to like pull it up next to your mouth. That's preposterous. And there's not a lot of things that legitimately trigger me on Earth right now, but seeing these people doing their little TikTok videos, and they're fucking holding. They're not like outdoors or in this complex studio setting. They're just in front of their phone, right? And they've got their lapel mic right in their hand and they're talking right into it as they're pointing to whatever tweet they're commenting on in the background of their video. There's nothing that irritates me more than that. Like it just sincerely it reaches deep within me. I was like, this is not what this microphone was designed to. You are using it wrong. You are using it like an imbecile because it will pick up your audio nonetheless, like it's doing right now. It's kind of like, do you remember when everyone had the iPhone wired earbuds, right? The wired ones, and there was a little nub on the wire for the microphone, and then people would bring it up to their mouths to talk because they thought that it wouldn't pick up the audio, or even if they whispered that it wouldn't pick it up, right? You remember that? And then I even saw people like putting like onion paper or whatever around the microphone nub, so because to act as a windscreen, because when they put it up to their mouths, it'd pop because they'd be talking right into it and they're not supposed to, and it still would be able to pick up the audio from where it was dangling. These things are like I don't know, man. It reaches deep within me and awakens some savage beast. I don't know. So here I am with my lapel mic, using it correctly and using it for the first time too. I mean, I tested it out before starting out the recording, plugged it into my phone, and did a little 1-2 check, humana, and everything's working. But we're not even beta testing. That's the extent of the testing. We'll figure out how the audio sounds like after, when I went through my gear and whatever. It'll all be fine. It'll all be fine. So is this the new look of the Dynamite review? You never know. We'll see how it goes. Well, hopefully the audio is fine. I'm sure it is though. But thank you, Kristen. Mwah. You've been tremendous, and I love you. And we are going to talk about Dynamite now. Dynamite and Collision, because I have had time to catch up with both earlier today. And so I got into both, got some notes, and I think we're going to wrap up. Essentially, what this review is going to do is we're going to wrap up the Continental Classic. We're going to put a nice little bow on the league play, because now we've got our semifinals and all set up in the finals for World's End, which is on Saturday. Tomorrow is when I'm recording this. So we're going to wrap up the league action. So I'm going to talk about Dynamite. I'm going to talk also a little bit about Collision. Don't get used to it though. We're not turning this into a weekly dual review of Dynamite and Collision. We're not doing that. This is just me taking advantage of a nice situation where I can consume both and get all my thoughts together and just wrap everything up, because we have been following the Continental Classic quite closely here on the review, so and on stream as well. So we'll go with that, and I'll probably have a good final review of the C2 on stream next Monday. So that's what we're going to do. So I might as well just go ahead and talk about both shows. An excellent Collision, by the way, a good Dynamite, but an excellent episode of Collision that we are going to be talking about. We're mostly going to focus on the C2 here. There's a couple of things that demand a little more attention, like MJF's segment with Hangman and Swerve. We're gonna squirrel some time away for that, because that's a significant thing. There might be a few things here and there, but we're mostly going to go through the rest really quickly. But we are going to start, as we've been doing the last couple of weeks, starting with the Continental Classic, and that on both Dynamite and Collision. Dynamite on 34th Street and Collision Christmas Collision. There is a collision on Christmas. Christmas collides. The colliding Christmases. Anyway, those are the two shows we're going to be talking about that took place at the Hammerstein Ballroom in New York, New York. Both nights packed up, no more room, all tickets sold out. These shows both of them were pre-recorded. Neither of them were aired live. The Dynamite was recorded on December 20th. I don't know why. It's something, I guess. I don't know. And the Collision was recorded on the 21st to be aired on the 24th and 25th, respectively, then. So, Continental Classic, let's start with the Dynamite matches that happened. We had Konosuke Takeshita defeating Orange Cassidy in Blue League action on Dynamite. This was really good. I thought this was a great match. I thought they had some really, really good action between the both of them. Cassidy basically relying on his speed. Takeshita trying to lay in with a little more strength. Trying to just pummel him and hurt him as much as possible. I love the spot where Takeshita is dragging Cassidy up onto the top turnbuckle for an avalanche raging fire, but what Cassidy does instead is reverse it into an avalanche stun dog millionaire. I thought that was a really cool spot. You've got Takeshita playing some of the hits, like the wheelbarrow German, orange punch by Cassidy, a beach break on the apron as well. There's even a moment where Orange Cassidy tries to win by count out by punching Takeshita over the rail in the audience, but Takeshita, of course, makes it in time. And then there's a couple of roll-up attempts. Orange Cassidy counters out of the raging fire, but Takeshita still manages to hit it and get the win, which brings him up to 10 points, whereas Orange Cassidy stays at 6. I thought this was a great match. I thought this was really, really good. And commentary was putting over the fact that Takeshita became the first man in the tournament, first guy in the tournament to qualify to move forward, basically, right? To advance into the semis, no matter what the other outcome, no matter what happened, let's say to Claudio or John Moxley or whatever, or even on the Blue League, he with this win, mathematically, he was absolutely guaranteed a spot in the semifinals of the tournament. So there you go. Mascara Dorada defeated Roderick Strong in another Blue League match. This was probably, I think, this was probably my least favorite match of the entire tournament. And I don't know if it was just a mismatch of styles. I don't know if, sometimes it just doesn't gel with the other guy. I don't know exactly what it was. It wasn't a bad match, but it was still, it was something that I felt just lacked some chemistry. It lacked some pizzazz. I don't know how else to put it. Does that sound weird, pizzazz? But especially talking about a Roderick Strong match. And that's the thing, is that Roddy Strong matches usually are a lot more physical. Not that Mascara Dorada wasn't able to take it. Like he ate a backbreaker on the apron, and he was doing his tornillo arm drags. He was, he did a senton atomico. He was being his usual Mascara Dorada self. But I don't know. There was just something missing. There was something that wasn't exactly there in this match. And eventually, Dorada just counters the end of Heartache, lands a big kick, and hits the shooting star press for the win. And he gets up to 6 points, keeping him alive for the time being in Blue League, while Roderick Strong, of course, as we know, as of I think it was as of last week, he was eliminated. There was nothing more, nothing Roderick Strong could do to get back into the situation. He was to basically act as a spoiler, and by losing this match, you could easily say, oh well, he's probably going to be a spoiler in his last match then. And if you had guessed that, well, you were on the right side of history. Jungle Jack Perry defeated Pac in a Gold League match. You know what? I thought this was pretty good. I thought this was a pretty good match overall. And I think there's I know there's a lot of I know Jack Perry is he's a divisive pro wrestler, right? I think he's very divisive in the sense that there's a lot of people who think who enjoy him, and a lot of people don't. That's why he's divisive. Great analysis, Warren. Thank you. No, but he's over the quality of his work, I think, is where the biggest division happens. Where there's a lot of folks who think he's a very good to great pro wrestler, others who think he's very overrated. And when I look at a match like this, it reminds me of what made Jack Perry interesting in the first place. And that's because I think it's mostly because of that really great natural babyface energy that he has, that he exudes, in which he is able to take a licking but keep on going type of situation. Not like Darby Allin, right? Where that's entirely Darby Allin's thing, where he's like, he's a glutton for punishment. Nothing can keep him down. He's basically invincible until he does die. In Perry's case, it's more like your typical babyface energy, right? Where he's always working from underneath. It's always hope spots being denied until the big comeback arrives, and then whatever finish you had planned occurs. Very, very Ricky Morton-esque type of energy. That's what Perry particularly succeeds at, and I feel like his last two matches in the C2 have been exactly that. They've been matches where he's worked from behind and was going up against wrestlers that were either stronger, bigger than him, and he was able to use that energy to get people into it. I mean, the Hammerstein audience was very much into both of Jack Perry's matches in this Continental Classic, in these two last Continental Classic evenings. So Pac was very happy to oblige, doing these big brutal moves and, dropping him on his head with a brain buster and, belly to belly superplex and constantly shutting down whatever hope spots that Perry was coming back with, DDTs, the near falls and whatnot. There were, and Pac would always just like shut this down until we got to the finish where Perry gets into the brutalizer, right? And what does he do? This has been the constant with Jack Perry here. He bit Pac. That's what Jack Perry's been doing, and he's gonna bite Kyle Fletcher later on. In his last match, he's gonna bite him on the pectoral. He's gonna bite him on the tit. Why don't I just use why am I trying to be very anatomical about it? Just go ahead and say it. He bit him on the tit. But he's going to do that later. But so basically, he bites his way out of the brutalizer and continues to stay in the match, rolling up Pac eventually with a victory roll for the win and getting himself into the game at 6 points. And those were the C2 matches on Dynamite. And what this created, though, and I want to point this out, what this ended up creating was everyone in Gold League at 6 points, right? It just had wall-to-wall 6 points, no matter who you were. And I don't know if I'm a fan of that. And because I'll tell you what I'm a fan of in these type of round-robin tournaments in pro wrestling. I like when the booker, the guy in charge, picks a guy or two and is like, here are your front runners. Here are the guys. These are the dudes you have to beat, right? And is able to build a story around a guy like taking the lead and just like moving forward instead of having like everyone on equal footing. I think that's much less compelling. It's not as interesting. It just becomes like a gray blob. You're just like, oh, well, everyone's at 6. Now, I understand the logic of wanting to do this type of story for one of your two leagues, because the blue league was exactly the situation that I just described. Konosuke Takeshita being at the top of the league, just dominating everyone, not losing a single match, right? There's the draw, but not a single match was lost by Konosuke Takeshita in this tournament. So clearly establishing the fact that Takeshita is the guy. He's the guy you should be watching out for. And I like the idea that at some point, it no longer becomes about trying to win the block. It becomes a question of, well, who's going to be there at number 2? Because clearly nobody is able to defeat Takeshita. So the best that everyone else can hope for is to be runner-up. And I like that story. That's a good story. And then at the same time, you exit the tournament and you're like, well, Konosuke Takeshita is a guy. Konosuke Takeshita is a guy that has the confidence of the booker. This is the booker telling us, you have to keep an eye on this dude because I'm going to do great things with this guy, right? And you turn around and you have like the logjam at 6 and you're like, And then it could be anyone's game, but then you also realize that you have guys like Kyle Fletcher and Kazuchika Okada, and you're like, oh no, it's not anyone's game. It's not anyone's game because you have these great wrestlers in this league who are clearly going to be better positioned than Jack Perry to win. No disrespect. So it's kind of strange. It's not something that ends up being compelling. And then then I'm looking at the results from in a post Christmas Dynamite, and I'm like, okay, well, I mean, we have to look at the scenarios here, and we have to look at what's going to be plausible and who's going to move forward. And I guess you can tell stories like, well, Mike Bailey had a surprise win against Kyle Fletcher. Maybe you can do it again with Okada. Okay, sure. I'm still not buying it, but sure. I guess that's a story you can tell. But you're looking at the most reasonable outcomes. You're like, okay, well, someone's going to be, like you look at it, there's going to be a draw here. There's going to be a match that is going to end as a draw because unless they want to go with the three-way, which, I was really hoping they didn't, but I wasn't sure that they weren't going to do it because they did it on the very first Continental Classic, right? You remember one of the leagues finished, and I think it was John Moxley, Swerve, and Jay White that were in a three-way unbreakable tie. And that's dumb. And I didn't like it. Not a lot of people liked it. In this type of tournament, it didn't make sense. So unless they were going for that, then you want to avoid having three people tied with the same amount of points. So there had to be a match here that was going to end in a draw. And I had kind of figured, well, the one that makes the most sense is Pac and Kevin Knight. And guess what happened? Pac and Kevin Knight went to a draw. So I don't know, it's not as exciting. And I think that if the Continental Classic was longer, if the C2 really was a tournament, let's say Tony Khan really wanted to go bold with this and then decided to cover 2 pay-per-view cycles with the C2 and really give us like a long G1-esque length tournament. Then you can take more time building these stories, and then you can even create twists. Then, let's say the come from behind story can be much more compelling. Then you can have a little fun with someone coming out the gate really, really strong, but then losing momentum, and then someone really coming over. Or just one guy who's wiping the floor with everyone all throughout. And that to me I think it could benefit. I think it's ultimately one of the things that, now that we're 3 years in, I find myself in a more difficult position to criticize it, compare it to the G1, because there are inherent cultural differences. And I say cultural with big air quotes, but do you understand what I mean when I say cultural? I mean the way that North American wrestling is handled versus Puro. One is much more conducive to these types of tournaments, where the other one has to contend with television time and pay-per-views, and doesn't have the formats are so different, and the thought behind what you're putting together is so different that it makes a round robin tournament much less, I don't want to say compelling, makes it not as epic, maybe is the word that I want to use. I'm trying to, I apologize for that. I'm struggling to find the word that I'm looking for, but the Japanese round robins are a central event around which the promotion revolves, whereas the C2 is not something around which AEW revolves, at least not yet. Maybe down the road if it does become huge, but not yet. It's just a thing. It's a break in typical storytelling to provide this diversion, essentially, right? It's not something around which the promotion rotates, not yet. And I think this is one of the reasons that makes it really difficult to be able to make one-to-one comparisons with which I think ultimately are unfair, because North American wrestling doesn't have the same approach. It doesn't have the same basic approach. So you're trying to not shoehorn, that'd be wrong, but you're trying to insert a very Japanese-based, sports-based idea into something that does have more of an entertainment flair and is treated as an entertainment product and is presented as an entertainment product and is produced as an entertainment product, as opposed to more sports-based. So I feel like my thoughts are a little scattered because I think I even surprised myself on the angle I went down here. I wasn't necessarily prepared, but but nonetheless, it's still that. It's like there's a marketed difference between how American wrestling and Japanese wrestling is presented and the way we're used to seeing round robin tournaments, ergo in Japan, i.e. in Japan, I should say, cannot translate one-to-one with the way things are done in the US. Now, could US wrestling adapt more to be like how it happens in Japan? Yes. Do they want to? No, I don't think. They being American wrestling heads and bookers, AEW. No, I don't think they do. I don't think they want to make that drastic a shift, despite the fact that the programming is exponentially better when when you're focused on having just great wrestling matches. It elevates the shows, and it's been like this every year. And particularly this year, where I think the Continental Classic was particularly good. I thought we'll see how the finals shake out, but in the semifinals, of course. But the C2 this year, I think I don't even think it's arguable. This has been the best version of the tournament so far. It has been absolutely remarkable, right? Anyway, little tangent there. I felt I was a little scattered and a little all over the place. I hadn't prepared necessarily. I just and I'm trying. I find myself hitting a wall and trying to express what I'm feeling, what I'm trying to convey, and I can only talk about it, I guess, in vibes and in feeling, as opposed to being very, very concrete. And I don't know if anything I picked up here or that I delivered was useful in any way. Then we had the 2.5 hour Christmas Collision match that included 6 Continental Classic matches on it. And yes, this really did contribute to me thinking that the Collision show was excellent. Started off with Kyle Fletcher defeating Jack Perry, which then brought Fletcher up to 9 points. Perry finishes the tournament at 6. And like I mentioned before in my Perry analysis, it was the same type of match, except now it was Fletcher who was dominant, who was working over the heel, who took off his boot at some point to really expose the ankle and try to work over the foot as much as possible. Perry was just fighting from behind, trying to get his submission move in. The snare trap, he was trying his best to do that. And a really, really fun closing stretch. We've got all sorts of counters, a poison rana, you got a pile driver, you got near falls. And then we're getting close to the buzzer. We're under a minute. I'm like, holy shit, okay, is this the match that's going to be a draw? Then I'd be really thrown for a loop because I was expecting Kyle Fletcher to move forward. But Fletcher hits a running kick, I should say, and then seals it with the brainbuster. He even tried to do the generico brainbuster, but Perry was having nothing of it. I thought this was very, very good. Very, very good match. More great fire from Jack Perry, and Kyle Fletcher then goes at 9. And one of the things that annoyed me sometimes throughout the tournament is the as much as I enjoyed how commentary was covering it more like a sport, and they were doing on the field reporting by Renee Paquette and all that stuff like that. I really appreciated these touches. The standings, the ticker tape passing on, appearing on screen and just scrolling the results of the league so far. There's things that kind of annoyed me here, like Tony Schiavone saying with Kyle Fletcher getting 9 points, he was moving on to the semis. I'm like, no, he's not. This is not a guarantee that he's moving to the finals, because there's two other guys that have 6 points, right? And I just casually glanced over the leaderboard for the Gold League, and I was like, look, Kyle Fletcher beat Kevin Knight, Okada, and of course Jack Perry. So let's say Kevin Knight or Okada won their matches. Well, Kyle Fletcher is still in a good spot because he's got the tiebreaker over them, right? But if Speedball Mike Bailey and Pac both won their matches, he'd be out because both Pac and Bailey defeated Kyle Fletcher in league play. So they have the tiebreaker over him. So no, like, he was not automatically guaranteed to move forward. There were two matches that could potentially seal his fate. You know, if Bailey or Pac either won their matches, that would be fine, but not both. If both guys won, Kyle Fletcher's not moving forward. Why? Because everyone's at 6 points and everyone wins gets 3 points, which is why I was saying, well, one of these matches is going to finish with a draw, and that's going to come up really, really soon. Then we had Blue League action where Konosuke Takeshita unsurprisingly disposed of Mascara Dorada and eliminated Mascara Dorada from the tournament, and Takeshita sealing the deal. Top guy, 13 points. No one's even close to beating his record this year, and I really liked it. I thought it was a blast. Takeshita doing all the power moves and Dorada, being scintillating and aerial as he usually is. Hey, our Orihara moonsault from the top of the post, was a thing of beauty. I mean, look, I'm thrilled that Mascara Dorada got into the tournament, and there's no buts. This is how it is. I'm really glad he was. I think he was a great representative of CMLL and Lucha Libre because I think the kid is fantastic. I think it's safe to assume that he's one of these luchadors that has a dual contract with AEW. I would assume so. But look, regardless of his contract status, this was one of the things that I really wanted from the C2 this year, and it's to have people from the outside join in. So have people from outside AEW join the tournament because that adds to the prestige. that adds to the level of competitiveness and adds a level of uniqueness as well, because most of the people in Blue League had never wrestled Mascara Dorada, so we were getting a bunch of first-time matches, and it was really, really interesting on that front. But yeah, bringing in people from outside promotions to be a part of it, I think that's exciting. And they should do it next year as well. Not do like, oh, we're gonna add in Tomohiro Ishii and say he's from New Japan. Well, because Tomohiro Ishii is part of the fabric. He's part of the fabric of AEW, so it's not special. They could bring in Shima. They could bring in Shima next year. It's not as if he has no connection to AEW, first and foremost, right? We all remember, the Strong Hearts at first from Oriental Wrestling Entertainment, right? OWE, right? Wasn't that what it was called? Yeah, I think Shima's going to be looking for stuff to do soon. That was a joke, but also not really. Anyway, Roderick Strong in the next Blue League match did exactly what I thought he was going to do. We were talking about it for weeks. He upset Claudio Castagnoli, spoiled Castagnoli's tournament, because if Claudio had made it to 10, he was the deal was sealed. He was going to move on to the semifinals, and all the other Blue League matches, which would have left just Jon Moxley, but then that would have instantly indicated that Jon Moxley's not moving forward. So yeah, I mean, this was a good little sprint. This match didn't overstay its welcome, and it's just like Roderick Strong coming in, and he came in after getting a pep talk from Kyle O'Reilly, right? Saying, hey, I believe in you and whatnot. And he just like was laser focused, and he just like sprinted towards the finish against Castagnoli. And it was really exciting. Ended with a ended with a big knee to the jaw, and he got his first 3 points and his last 3 points. But nonetheless, he's not finishing with 0. Castagnoli's finishing with 7. So there you go. Kind of makes you wonder, why did Kyle O'Reilly wait so long to come in and give his pep talk? Maybe after the second match that Rod lost, maybe Kyle should have come in and say, "Hey, buddy, now I believe you," and whatnot, and then Roderick Strong would have gone on this tremendous run. But am I being pedantic right now? Yes, I am. Thank you. As I had foreseen, Pac and Kevin Knight in the Gold League went to the time limit draw, making sure that they were the two guys who were going to finish at 7 points to keep the air clean for Okada and Bayley. I thought this was great. This is one of my favorite matches of the tournament. This was so much fun. And I think we have to underscore that Kevin Knight was the breakout star of this tournament. I think this is the guy that everyone sort of like took a shine to, discovered, saw how much he evolved, so on, depending on where you were at in your knowledge and following of Kevin Knight's career. He was phenomenal. He was phenomenal in this match, and Pac was very giving as well. And Kevin Knight showing a lot of heart and a lot of this explosive, dynamic, high-flying athleticism that he has. I mean, there's no other way to put it. Kevin Knight really did carve a space out for himself. I think there's a lot of people who really discovered him in this tournament, even throughout Jet Speed, but I think particularly in this tournament, they're like, okay, this guy has the potential to be special. Like, there is absolutely something there. If Tony plays his cards right, he could have another guy on his roster that he could elevate. I think there's a sincere appreciation for Kevin Knight moving forward. He took advantage of the situation and made the best and made the best out of it. I think he's the guy who ultimately ended up getting the most shine. So good for him and good for us, because we got to see him do some great stuff throughout this tournament. So they go to a draw. Then we have the final Blue League match where where Jon Moxley defeated Orange Cassidy in the type of match that you would expect, right? I mean, we've seen these guys wrestle multiple times in the past. I wouldn't put this up with their best matches, not with their worst matches either. It's kind of like somewhere in the middle. It's a fine match. It's a good match. It was fine. A brawl. It was essentially a brawl. Superman punches, tilt-a-whirl DDTs, beach breaks, Moxley refusing to stay down, of course. And the story still, Orange Cassidy trying to work the ankle, which seems to be, I'm not trying to be funny here, but Moxley's Achilles heel. So Orange is trying to do like some groundwork, which is something that is a little unusual. You don't see Orange Cassidy try to do that much, but he did understand the opening here, tried to use that to his advantage. Didn't work out. So Moxley gets the win with a sneaky roll-up. This was good. Definitely not as good as their, Double or Nothing match earlier. Yeah, it was Double or Nothing earlier this year, right? Was it Revolution or Double? It was Double or Nothing. It was Double or Nothing. Not as good as that match, but still good. Still great, actually. I thought it was really, really good. And I thought, again, Okada, I think he really likes Mike Bailey. He's taking these preposterous bumps from, like, he's taking the double knees and all of this, and Okada could be like, no, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this on a Collision. Just, I've got a bigger match coming up on the pay-per-view, I should say. But no, he's like taking the big moves and he's eating shit. And I'm like, okay, all right, this is good stuff. I think he really likes Mike Bailey. And what's not to like about Mike Bailey? He's French-Canadian. So there you go. 9 points does Kazuchika Okada finish up the Continental Classic. So the final standings of each league go like this. On the blue side, like we mentioned, Konosuke Takeshita at 13, Jon Moxley at 9, so they both advance. Claudio Castagnoli at 7, Orange Cassidy and Mascara Dorada are at 6 points apiece. and Roderick Strong ends the tournament with 3 points. On the gold side, Kyle Fletcher wins the block with 9 points. Kazuchika Okada ties him at 9 points, but is in second place because Kyle Fletcher has the tiebreaker on Kazuchika Okada, having defeated him earlier in the in Gold League action. So Okada is effectively the runner-up. Kevin Knight-Pack at 7 apiece, and Jack Perry and Mike Bailey at 6 apiece. So that means that at the finals, I'm a little surprised here, the semifinals, I should say, we're getting Takeshita and Okada right out the gate. We're getting them straight into the semifinals, whereas I really thought that that was going to be the final because they built this match so incredibly hard, right? Like they've been building to this match for so fucking long, months. Like I thought that I would look, if it were me, I would have done the opposite. I would have had these guys, I would have had Okada win I would have had both guys win their blocks or both come in second, not do the crossover and then give the match in the finals because that's the one we've been building for months. Now, was this a way to show the ticket buying audience and the pay-per-view buying audience that, hey, don't worry, you are absolutely getting this match? Maybe. And that's a sound reason as well, where you're just like, look, we're not going to pretend, we're not going to dance around it. This is a match people want to see. We want people to buy tickets. We want people to buy the show. Let's go ahead and just announce it and make it reality. That's cool. Which probably means, and again, like I could be wrong here because we could get Jon Moxley getting thrown into the mix here, but that would probably mean that that Fletcher and Takeshita are going to end up in the finals. I think that would be a fair prediction anyway. And it makes sense because Takeshita and Fletcher are buddies. They've been close allies. They've tag teamed together. And, they do the whole husbando thing online and whatnot. There's a close proximity there. So I can understand them wanting to do that and be like, oh, 2 friends, 2 brothers, But then I'm also like, yeah, but it's still not a story that's really pushed in AEW. Whereas the Okada Takeshita stuff was like front and center. They've been teasing tension between these two for months. Why wouldn't you do that? Why wouldn't you keep it for the big match? Well, that's just me, right? This is me doing some wacky fantasy booking here. So I don't think it's that big a deal, and I understand, and I can understand them doing it this way and giving the match in the semifinals adds a little more unpredictability for the finals, assures your viewing audience that you are getting this match. There's benefits to doing it, right? It's just I don't see the IWGP World Heavyweight Champion losing this tournament days before he's heading to Tokyo to defend the title in the Tokyo Dome. I just don't see it. In what is ostensibly the biggest Wrestle Kingdom of all time, as far as attendance goes, and media attention on top of that. I wouldn't see why they do that. It doesn't make sense to me. So there you have it. As far as the final matches go, the points and whatnot, and my general feeling, and I guess on stream probably next week, and then maybe on the Mr. Warren Hayes show next week, I will do maybe more of a proper wrap up of the entire Continental Classic and dive maybe a little more into some thoughts I have here, although it was pretty comprehensive here. But we'll have the finals in the rear view as well. So, we'll get a good broad picture and we'll talk about it more next week, but not on this review. So all that's left is to go through everything else that happened. So let's go ahead. Let's start with Dynamite, and we're just going to list off things that happened here in order, nonetheless. We had Gabe Kidd calling out Darby Allin in a pre-tape, setting up a match, challenging Darby for a match at World's End. So there you go, a little out of nowhere. Also understand that Gabe Kidd was involved, I guess, in all of the times where Darby Allin was got big hurt, throwing down the stairs, getting set on fire, so on and so forth. So I guess it makes sense. Anyway, Gabe Kidd has it out for Darby Allin. And Gabe Kidd, look, I'm not saying I know anything here, but I've noticed over the course of the last tour that Gabe Kidd had, World Tag League in Japan and New Japan, he cut a lot of weight. And I was looking at it and I was like, is he cutting weight to sort of make himself more palatable, perhaps for North American US television, as opposed to how he looked previously, which was like a, big meaty thug type dude. Like he really did trim down, starting to look a little more muscular, as just putting that out there. Then we have the Bang Bang Gang, who through a video package challenged FTR to a street fight at World's End. All right. Then we get Renee Paquette, and who is out in front of the crowd at Hammerstein, and she interviews both Chris and Jamie Hayter. And I love that interview setup where the interviewees are standing in front of the crowd, and you can see the live crowd, you can see them react. And really simple thoughts here. I thought Statlander sounded stilted and unnatural, like she was reading lines, whereas Jamie Hayter was just natural and flowing and she's so good. Like she's really, really good. Statlander will never be good at promos. And that's where I'm going to go with this. I think like she's hit or miss to begin with. And I think that for the rare times she does hit, when she misses, you're like, my God. You sort of grit your teeth and you're like, another missed opportunity kind of thing. I don't see it with Statlander, and I like Chris Statlander when it comes to promos. Will that have a look? Is it bad to the point where I'm like, take the belt off of her this weekend and give it to Jamie? No, I wouldn't be bothered by it either. But I also think, might as well see this experiment through. Statlander can have great matches. Is not being able to promo the jettison button that we get rid of her as a champion. I don't know. Probably not. Then we had MJF squashing local talent Dustin Waller. Never mind the match. What we want to focus on is what happened after, with Hangman and Swerve showing up in the audience to sort of give Max his comeuppance. Now, I don't want to sit here and tell you, I was right. I think that would be it's very uncouth to sit here and rub it in someone's face when you're right. Nevertheless, I was right. That's just plain and simple. I was correct, as I usually am in these types of situations. And I don't know why people don't listen more to me. I don't know why they listen to me. I don't know why they don't listen to what I say and go, you know what, Warren, once again, you were right, and we should have listened to you from the start. Or even just listen to me from the start. I don't know why they don't do that. Because what have I been saying? What have I been saying? And not just like, okay, well, we're just going to reserve this for last week, okay? But I have a track record on this, okay? Look, what was I saying last week? MJF comes back and he says some deplorable things, things that you're not into, that you're not supposed to like because it's MJF and he's a heel. And I'm like, he's going to get his. There's going to be a response. The baby faces are going to have a response. And what happened? The two big baby faces of AEW come out and they dress him down and they pick everything he has to say or everything that he said last week apart. They just take it apart. And look, think about this for a second. Hangman Adam Page, okay? Hangman Adam Page, the guy that AEW fans universally online universally agree is like the greatest, the greatest guy, and he is an impeccable human being. And I'm not saying this sarcastically. I think I think he's a great. He seems to project. Let me say that again. He seems to truly be a great human being. Okay, I'm not trying to discredit that, but look at what happened there. Like the guy that the online crowd rally behind, that they push forward in every narrative, that everyone gets super anxious about when things don't go his way, the guy that they throw all their hopes and dreams behind when it comes to AEW. He's the guy who gets on the microphone and says everything that the online crowd accuse MJF of being. Call him an edgelord, a 90s throwback, a misogynist, and so on and so forth, right? And then throwing in sex pest, you want to accuse people of being a sex pest, you're a bigot, all that shit. Everything that all of the MJF haters throw at the guy was coming out of Hangman Adam Page's mouth. Like it's almost as if he was reading tweets. It's almost as if he was actually reading tweets. Now, do you think this is a coincidence? Do you think that this is some kind of nutty, it just so happened that Hangman it just so happens that Hangman was the first guy to get the microphone. No, this was all by design. This was all by design. The first guy to obliterate MJF and call him out and expose him and insult him is the guy who is the online AEW fan hero, and he takes him apart using every argument that AEW fans who hate MJF use. It's almost as if this is all planned. It's almost as if all of this is a work. It's almost as if these are all characters performing in a television show. It's almost as if, the villain on your favorite TV show doing vile, villainous things gets his comeuppance when the hero shows up and the audience cheers for the hero because they hate the villain so much. It's almost as if this was all put together. It's almost as if I saw that coming and I was right. And I am right. And I'm right again. And look, I'm not saying this. Like I said last week, if you hate MJF, there is nothing I can say to change your mind. There's nothing I can say to change your mind. But what I can do is sit here and point and say, well, you can hate him, but I was still right. I was still correct. And ultimately, that's all that matters. I'm joking, of course, kinda. Like I'm also like thinking, I'm also thinking of stuff that happens in all different types of media and movies and in television, and there are in books, there are characters depicted that do and say much more awful things than what Max says. And like it makes me laugh when Hangman compares him to, 90s edgelord, professional wrestling, edgy guy. When Max is not even remotely saying anything that would have been said on an episode of Monday Night Raw in 1997. Like, go back. This is the type of situation where I feel like the people who accuse Max of being that way, who of saying like these terrible, awful things that belong, in the Attitude Era, never really listened to the Attitude Era because they'd realize how softcore Max really is. But anyway, like that's an aside. And look, I heard Brian Alvarez reporting today on Wrestling Observer Radio that the the original promo that Max cut in Manchester, the first promo when he returned, the first promo that he cut in Manchester on the other three guys, he hadn't cleared what he wanted to say with all three other guys, which is usually something that you do in pro wrestling. He didn't clear it, allegedly, according to the report, and that this week it was a receipt for what happened. And there's people going, oh, well, there you go. But I'm like, well, my point still stands, though. My point still 100% stands. And in fact, maybe it's even reinforced. It's a little more compounded because now if we're in shoot territory here, right? And Max is doing like, he's going off script and doing things on his own. And, and the guys are banding together to sort of keep him at bay. Well, there you go. Like, my point still stands. It's still the villain eating shit from the good guys. It doesn't really matter whether they got along, whether they agreed to it or not. Ultimately, and look, they'll work it out like adults or like pro wrestlers, whichever way they decide to work. But if this was a receipt, then okay, it's a great receipt, and it works in the context of the story. On top of that, it makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense for Paige and Swerve's characters to be after him. It works perfectly that the heel, after cutting a promo, after hijacking an interview promo segment last week in a contract signing where he just talked and didn't leave the baby faces any time to respond, that he gets his this week with the baby faces. It all works. Like, you even had Swerve, saying you're a bigot, Max, and that makes you worse than P. Diddy. You can call me P. Diddy, but you're worse, because of who you are. Sometimes I feel like I'm the only guy who still understands that pro wrestling is not real. Like that all of it is put together. It's a work that you're supposed to get angry, right? But I subscribe to a theory that a lot of people have as well, and that is that for a long time now, and mostly because 20 years of wrestling unopposed with no real competition, we have come to the wrestling audience wants to be a part of the show, and they don't really want to get mad at heels. They want to see heels doing heel things, just being nasty and saying bad things, and then you can sort of shake your fist at them with a smile, going, oh, you. But the audience doesn't want to shake their fist at a heel, with the truth, with real feelings that they really don't like the guy or gal. They don't want to be legitimately upset at heels. The audience wants to be a part of the ride because we're all smart fans. We're all smarter than that. We know wrestling is fake and they should be acting like it's fake. So when it flies a little too close to the sun, they're like, oh, forgetting that MJF, there's a very good chance that he's not like what he is in real life. Like, I don't know who needs to hear this, but Hangman Adam Page didn't really set a house on fire. That's okay, right? Swerve did not break into the Buddy Wayne Academy and beat a young man to a bloody pulp. Like that. These things didn't happen, but I feel like the audience accepts it more because it's so over the top. They understand that it's cartoonish, and they're like, "Oh, Hangman, that arsonist," and we'll make jokes about it, saying Hangman did nothing wrong, so on and so forth, right? But Max, he just picks at all the right chords, and that's what makes him, like I said on Blue Sky, and got some pushback on it, and that's fine. But as I said on Blue Sky, Max is the most successful heel in professional wrestling today. And I sincerely believe that. Otherwise, what do we get? Dominic Mysterio? Is that what we want? Do we want an industry filled of Dominic Mysterios where you're just You don't really hate him. You're just hating him because it's fun to do. I think it's okay. I think legitimate, real feelings are okay. It's a show. It's a show. It's entertainment. I'll have more thoughts on this probably, likely on Monday. We'll circle back around to this, but yeah, I thought this was a good little segment. I thought it was very good. And look, let's just point one thing out here. You know, the baby faces were left standing at the end of the segment with MJF, and MJF passed out. He was choked out with a chain. I'm just pointing that out. The baby faces were standing tall, so not necessarily going to be, I don't think, a good night for the baby faces at World's End. Oh, but Warren, that doesn't really work in AEW. It's not exactly the same. Really? Because I remember Hangman Page standing tall at the Go Home show, the Go Home Dynamite to Full Gear 2025. Kind of remember him standing tall at the end, and everyone's going, there's no way Samoa Joe is winning, and here we are. So yeah. Let's keep going. Still in the Dynamite events that happened on the show. Renee Paquette interviewed the Babes of Wrath backstage, and they were basically putting over their match this weekend against Athena and Mercedes Moné. Then we had Bandito versus Ricochet for the Dynamite Diamond Ring. Max was not involved in this at all, so there you go. So he lost his ring here to Bandito, who had a nice little match with Ricochet and did some crazy ass stuff as well, right? Like this was, again, Bandito doing just crazy spots. I loved the Styles Clash transition into the Liger Bomb. I thought that rocked. I don't remember ever seeing that, but I thought that was fantastic. And I thought he was going to finish the match with that instead of the 21 Plex, which a lot of people agree is kind of dumb. I think that should be his new finisher because it kind of rocks. So the Gates of Agony sort of try to get involved at the end to cheat, distract the ref so that Ricochet can cheat and get to the win, but it doesn't quite work out that way. And Bandito counters the Spirit Gun into a crucifix for a surprise win. See, maybe I am right. I don't know. Again, I'll have to think about it. So Bandito wins. Good for him. Brody King celebrates at the end with him after chasing off the rest of the Demand. So voila. Then we get Darby Allin cutting an interview in some kind of dark alley, I guess, around deep in the entrails of the Hammerstein. And Gabe Kidd ambushes him. Camera goes dark for a while, and Gabe Kidd is just beating the piss out of Darby Allin, kicking him down some stairs again. So yeah, so that will eventually set up a match. We'll get to that in a second. Mina Shirakawa's backstage with Toni Storm. She's asking her now to get involved in her match with Marina Shafir. Tony says yes, which leads us to Marina Shafir defeating Mina Shirakawa in a fine match. Look, I think by now everyone who knows me knows that these two are not my favorite pro wrestlers. So it's fine. It's all right. Marina wins with the mother's milk. And after the match, Shafir gets Mina back in the hold. Tony runs in to make the save. And there you go. We're building to something here. We get a pre-tape from the Elite, who come out of the medical room after last week's Dynamite, after the $1 million match. The Elite, the Bucks, announced that they were not clear to wrestle until the end of the year. And then Kenny Omega, who was there as well, says, well, while these guys recover, there's some unfinished business that maybe I should attend to personally. So, Andrade coming back? Who knows? So this leads us to the Christmas Collision match and the events that happened there. Stuff that we didn't talk about. After Roderick Strong's win on Claudio Castagnoli, the Death Riders run in. Well, Wheeler Yuta, Daniel Garcia, Marina Shafir chasing off the ref. Mark Briscoe comes in with a Yuletide log for the save, because of course. And then Shafir, sort of stands up to Mark Briscoe until Toni Storm comes in to make the win. And then they all come together and they're friends and they're going to have a mixed nuts match at World's End. I can't believe that just came out of my mouth. Stokely Hathaway accepts a Bang Bang Gang challenge, or the challenge from the Bang Bang Gang, I should say, that they made on Dynamite. We get some more from Jamie Hayter and Chris Statlander, basically talking about, oh, I've tried to show you support, and Hayter doesn't want therapy, and so on and so forth. So, building the tension to the match, which, by the way, I'm looking forward to the match. I think it has the potential to be a great match, so I'm looking forward to it. These two women are great. Gabe Kidd cuts a promo walking out of the audience to the ring, basically saying, I sent Darby Allin to the hospital, so how he's going to wrestle this weekend. The lights go off, they come back on, Darby Allin is there. Everyone goes woo woo woo. Well, not woo woo woo. They cheer. They don't do Zack Ryder is what I'm saying. And Darby has Sting's baseball bat, and Gabe Kidd takes a powder. So there you go. And then the Babes of Wrath defeated Hyan and Maya World. Now, Maya World and Hyan got a full entrance on this one here. They have their own Tonytron. They have their own music, and they came to the ring. It was essentially a squash, don't get me wrong, but they got the full entrance here. And I cannot but find this funny. There's a lot of comedy in this, I find, and I find it's funny. I don't know how petty this is or not. I don't know what the deal is, but this is funny, okay? And there will come a moment where it will be less funny, but let's have a little fun with it. Do you think that Hyan and Maya World getting their own music is good for their brand? Do you think Hyan and Maya World getting a full entrance on Collision is good for their brand? Do you think that Hyan and Maya World getting a match on the pre-show of the pay-per-view this weekend against the Sisters of Sin is good for their brand? I'm sorry. It is infinitely funny still. I think there is so much comedy in this. I just think this is really funny. I just think it's really funny. And I mean, good for them. Good for them if they're securing themselves jobs here in AEW. Maybe and I say big maybe, I don't know. Maybe they're signed to one of these low-end deals, where they start off with the company and then they just, get more and more spots and whatnot, more appearances. I couldn't tell you. I'm very happy for Hyan. Hyan has been grinding for a very long time on the indies. She's always wanted to get one of these spots. So I'm very happy for her. She's a great worker, especially with the closure of Deadlock Pro, right? She was an integral part of the women's division there. She did some great work with Danny Luna. Was another one, Anyway, she's really done some great work there. I'm glad she's coming in and is able to that in a post DPW world, she will have something to fall back on, and probably something close to what she's been trying to achieve for a long, long time. That makes me happy. Maya World as well. She's still very young, still green to a degree, learning, but this has the potential to be another one of these wrestlers that AEW gets their hands on very young and is able to shape and mold. There's a lot of potential in Maya World. I think there's something there. I'm excited to see more. I'm really excited to see more out of it. And look, what else can you say? It's maximizing an opportunity that was presented to you instead of worrying about whether it would be good for your brand or not. And I don't wish any harm on, or ill will, I should say, on Nixon Newell and Miranda Alizé. They just made a really poor choice. And to this day, still a choice that I don't understand. I'm completely baffled with it, as most wrestling fans are, I believe. And I wish them nothing but the best. I hope they're able to to sustain what they're doing and what they want to do in pro wrestling. It's just, again, infinitely weird that, Nixon Newell, gets fired by WWE, probably has very little chances to go back with her history of injuries and whatnot. The zero impressions she left on the company. And this was probably her best opportunity to continue to make a to work, to get regular work in a nationally televised wrestling promotion and make good money off of it. This was probably her lost opportunity. Now she's got to take independent bookings and she's got to fly over to the UK and whatnot. And from what she's been posting, it's been rough. She's having a hard time getting booked. And she's getting a hard time getting booked, but then she gets booked by AEW and she's like, nah, man, I don't want to do what you want me to do. And, she had the opportunity in her hands. I'm sorry, I have trouble getting behind that. I wish her nothing but the best, but, that was a silly decision. That was very, very ill-advised. I don't know why they decided to go down that way. And look at who's benefiting. The ladies who came in last minute, at a taping where they decided to walk out on, Hyan, Maya World, show up. We're going to have you be a tag team. They're like, cool. Just point us to where the ring is, boss. And look at the opportunities that they're getting. I mean, that's what wrestling is. That's what it's always been. So good for both of them for making the most out of that situation. And there you go. The collision ended with Keisuke Takeshita and Kazuchika Okada staring each other down, nose to nose, getting ready for the big pay-per-view, getting us all excited. So there you go. That's the review, a big double review with a lot of stuff to break down, and I hope you enjoyed it. A couple of things here that will go more into depth on stream this week. Reminder that there will be a World's End review that will be available first and foremost to members of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel on YouTube. So they'll get it in early access, probably as early as Sunday. So if you guys and gals and non-binary pals want to get in on that early, become a member of the channel on YouTube, and you'll be privy to my review before everyone else. Otherwise, it'll be released with the Mr. Warren Hayes Show later next week. In the meantime, though, I want to thank you for watching, for listening, for being here. Go watch some Randy Orton and get back to me. I'll see you next time.